Hey, Eduardo.
Yeah, Sean!
Holy cow, well done. You need one for the phone. You're down, Eduardo.
Man, how do you feel?
Well, it was great until the last 20 miles and then it sucked. Good job, man. Good job. Hi, my name's Sean Lancaster. I'm an average age grouper triathlete. And yes, on November 4th, 2023, I became an Ironman. Welcome back to my video series on my training prep and now the completion of my first Ironman, Ironman Florida 2023. In this episode, the last installment in the series, I'm going to give you a detailed race recap. I'm going to talk about what went right, what went wrong, and I'm going to give you some insights about the course. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you what's next for me as a triathlete and what my plans are as a hybrid athlete and what's next for this channel. Thanks again for watching.
120 hours over the 20-week program.
Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you would like to follow this journey. Okay, so that's my first goal, which is to finish in under 13 hours. My second goal is even more important to me than the first. And in a nutshell, it's something like this. I want to make it a great day. On my second goal, I feel like I really crushed it. Our race day video, episode 16, I think, does a good job showing just what a great day it truly was. But on my first goal, my time goal, I missed the mark. And I missed it fairly substantially. Since I beat my swim goal and I hit my bike goal, it was obvious that the marathon cost me my overall finish time goal. So what happened? Was this just a case of a guy struggling through his first marathon? Or was there more to the story? Holy crap, freezing my ass off. Got checked in early, woke up early, so yeah, we'll just walk over there in 40-degree weather and wait in line till they open. Jeez. So cold. All right, Thursday, race week. Headed out on a shakeout run. The cold front moved through Wednesday night, and so the low Thursday morning was 45. Pretty chilly. For muscle activation and to help with nerves, I'd planned to do a swim, bike, and a run race week on site, and I thought I'd stack them all on Thursday. But that meant I needed to swim Thursday morning, and it was just too cold, so I skipped the swim. And then because we had family coming in Thursday afternoon, I really only had time to run. But we did get in a great shakeout run. We did about 30 minutes on the first part of the run course. How awesome, how beautiful is that? Hope it looks like that Saturday. And this is a good shot of some of the slope that you have to deal with running on the shoulder in the first part of the run course. As far as nutrition goes for race week, I really didn't change what I was eating that much from what I did during training. I didn't do any serious carbo loading. Basically ate the same macro distribution that I had been during training. I did make sure to eat at chains for dinner that we were familiar with, mainly to avoid food poisoning. And then I also made sure each day to get at least one 24-ounce bottle of electrolytes. I don't know what that is. I don't know what's growing in there, but it makes you stronger. The extra protein on the bike. Maybe we ought to. I wanted race week to be a fun week, not just for me, but for my family, for my crew. And I have to say, I think we really got this right. Everybody was keeping it loose on race morning, a lot of joking around, and I don't think it could have gone any better, and it just really helped me stay in a really positive mindset. I did two things on race morning that I think really set me up well for my swim. First, I got into my wetsuit while I was over by transition. It was just a lot easier to do it there on that concrete surface than trying to do it down on the beach. Second, I decided not to get into the water and do any kind of a swim warm-up. For me, especially with my shoulder issue, I didn't want to get wet, get warmed up, and then get out and get cold and have to deal with what might happen with my shoulder on the start line. So those two things were key, I think, to setting me up for a good swim. One other thing I will point out is that we started heading over to the beach right as transition closed at 6:30. There are a lot of people trying to get there, long lines, and that turned out to be just right for timing it to where I didn't have to wait too long on the beach, but we weren't really cutting it too close either. I didn't eat anything race morning, which is not unusual for me. I had done all my swim workouts fasted. So I was prepared to do the swim with basically nothing on my stomach and just working off of my glycogen and then getting into fat burning. I'm a pretty fat adapted athlete. I've been working on that for a couple of years, so that was normal for me. I did drink a 24-ounce noon electrolyte drink, and that was it. And actually I felt really good. There's a lot said about the strategy of how to start the swim. A lot of people will say, you know, be prepared to take the first 200, 300, 400 yards out hard and then settle in, and that probably applies more to mass starts. I think with a roll-in start like this, what you really need to be looking for is just getting in the water and finding a lane to swim where you want to swim, and that's what I'm doing right here. I actually started on the inside, which would have put me close to the buoys, but what I wanted to swim was actually more to the outside. Even though you have to swim a little farther, it's less congested, so I was just really focused on picking my line. If you watch any other preview videos with regard to Ironman Florida, you'll hear a lot of people talk about marine life, and what they're talking about mainly are jellyfish. And I will say that I saw quite a few jellyfish, especially on the first lap, but I didn't get stung and I didn't hear of anyone getting stung. And so just be prepared. You're probably going to see them. Doesn't mean that it's going to be an issue. The one negative thing that I have to say about the course is on the back side of the trapezoid, after you make your first turn, they change buoy colors halfway through. And I guess that's to show you where the halfway point is, but it goes from yellow to orange at that point. Well, when you're sighting open water and there's some glare, that orange buoy actually looks just different, not necessarily orange or red, and so some people did mistake it as the turn buoy. So that's just something to watch out for. The one tip that I would offer, and I picked this up on another video, I don't remember where, but because this is a 2-lap swim, you have to get out and you have to run across the beach for about 50 yards or so. Increasing your kick as you're coming in off that first lap will help you kind of reactivate your legs. I did see a few wobbly folks. I didn't have any problems, but I know that a lot of people say that that can be an issue when you're coming from being horizontal in the water for so long, and of course I don't kick very much like most triathletes. So reactivating your legs by stepping your kick up the last couple hundred yards coming in, I think probably is a good plan. I had a good swim. I beat my goal by 5 minutes and I came out of the water feeling good. It's a long way from the beach to T1, like over a quarter of a mile or something. Plus you got to get out of your wetsuit, try to shower off a little bit. Well, you get the idea. It makes for a really long transition. Add in the fact that the changing tent was super crowded and the mountain line was kind of backed up. Anyway, I totally missed my goal for T1, but not a big deal. I felt good headed out on the bike. The IRONMAN website describes this bike course as flat. Of course that's subjective, but I would not describe it as flat. The first 30 miles are pretty flat, and the last 30 miles are pretty flat, but that middle 50 or so is actually kind of hilly in my opinion. Misjudging this part of the bike course exposed the biggest strategic mistake that I made in the race. And it also brought about my biggest tactical error. In setting my bike up for the race, I went with my smallest rear cassette. I also ignored the fact that I was running a short chain, which prevented me from actually reaching the 2 biggest cogs on that rear cassette. So I set myself up for a really flat course. Now I did still have my small ring, and this is really where I made a tactical error. For whatever reason, maybe it was pride, maybe it was just that I got caught up in the race, I rode the whole race in the big ring. As a result, my average cadence for my bike split was 72 RPM, which is substantially lower than what my target was and anything that I had practiced in my training. Essentially what I had done is I turned my first IRONMAN bike split into a 6-hour big gear workout. My average heart rate for the bike was slightly above my target. I averaged 146, was hoping to stay around 140. This was probably due to the fact that it was just a hotter day than expected. My Garmin had the temperature in the mid-80s, which is pretty hot. And we were also dealing with full sun. So overall, I probably raced about where I meant to on my heart rate. Okay, let's talk about nutrition and hydration. They call the bike the rolling buffet because that's where you really need to focus on your nutrition. I'd plan to take in 1,000 calories, 6 sport bean packages, that's 600 calories, and then 2 protein bars that were 200 each. I was able to get all that done, and overall it went pretty well. I packed it all in my box that was mounted on my top tube, so I took all that with me. I didn't take any nutrition from the aid stations. On hydration, I did run into a little bit of a problem. I made 2 planned stops, and one of them was at mile marker 25. Actually, that was a little bit early because I needed to take a pee break. And then I stopped at mile marker 67, which is where I'd planned to reload all my hydration. Unfortunately, when I stopped at that aid station, I was only able to get one bottle of water because they ran out. What that meant for me was I needed to grab a bottle of water at the next aid station, which I think was around mile 80. And I was making really good time at that point, and I just wanted to keep hammering and get back to transition. So I just grabbed a water bottle on the fly from a volunteer and didn't stop to mix up my electrolyte bottle. Around mile marker 90, I developed a cramp in my left hamstring. I choked down a noon tab and was able to get over it in about 5 minutes, but it definitely broke my rhythm and probably cost me some time. Not ideal. My thoughts on the bike course are basically that overall it's a great bike course. There was a lot of support out there. The aid stations were good. A lot of support out in the outlying communities. And the roads overall were pretty good. The bad sections weren't terrible. What I will say is, and this is talked about quite a bit with folks that do reviews of this race, there is a completely janky section when you come back into town. Yes, there is a detour through the Publix parking lot. And even worse, there is a section where you jump off on what looks like a nature walking trail. Keep your focus and just make sure that you don't crash during that section. You're not going to make up time, so just take your time. I hit T2 after 6 hours and 12 minutes out on the bike. I made my goal, but would my mistakes on the bike cost me on the marathon? I had a pretty solid T2 and my legs felt surprisingly good coming out of transition. Maybe it was the adrenaline, maybe it was just the lift I got from seeing my crew right there. I headed out on the run feeling pretty good. The Ironman Florida run course is really simple. It's a 2-loop out and back. The one negative thing I have to say about the run course, and it was a surprise to me, is that the first 2.5 miles on your way out of transition, you're basically running on the shoulder next to live traffic. It's very uneven and sloped surface, and you're sharing it with runners coming back from the turnaround, so it's tight. Once you get past the aid station at mile 2.5, the run course opens up and it's actually really good. So this was my first marathon ever. And I'd set a heart rate target of 145 based on what I had been able to do in training. Early on I was running just over 10-minute miles and my heart rate was climbing steadily into the upper 150s. And so I had a decision to make. Ignore my heart rate, push on and see what happens, or try to bring my heart rate down. Ultimately, I decided that risking a DNF was not acceptable. There will come a day when I push myself in an Ironman race to the very limits of what I can do, but I decided that that day was not today. Over the next few miles, I started walking the aid stations to get my heart rate down. And eventually I settled into a pace just under 13 minutes a mile. One thing I didn't count on though was that I had another problem show up late in the first lap. I'd taken Advil at mile marker 67 aid station on the bike, and that effectively wore off in the first lap of the run. And by the time I got to mile 12 where I saw Rebecca, I was starting to feel some issues on my right side. I knew that this meant I would miss my marathon target and my overall finish time goal, but I was confident this would give me what I needed to get to the finish line strong. I had a definite feel versus real gap in how I thought I looked running versus how I truly looked. And basically I was starting to rock a classic Ironman hunch because my right side was locking up and my right knee was giving me some issues. But I made peace with what I had and I did the best with what I had to give on that second half of the marathon. And really, I just kind of let go of that and enjoyed and celebrated the experience. And of course, you know how the story ends. I was able to hit the chute and finish strong and enjoy the moment. So, yeah, it was just an awesome experience.
Ben Lancaster from Palmetto. Ben, you are an Ironman.
Okay, so what's next for me as a triathlete? I need to be able to bike at a higher power and a lower heart rate, and that's not going to happen overnight. So what's next for me? A lot of work on the bike. But triathlon is not my only focus. Although I love triathlon, there are other challenges and other goals that I have in mind. And in the coming year, one of those goals is I plan to do the Murph Challenge on Memorial Day of 2024. So for the next 6 months, the channel is going to primarily be focused on my training for the Murph. In the meantime, I will also be working on that bike build, and then in the second half of next year, I've got a 70.3 Ironman race picked out, and we're going to find out if I can channel a little Ricky Bobby because I want to go fast. Okay, before I wrap this episode 17 and wrap up this series, I want to say a few thank yous. First, I want to say to Panama City Beach, thank you so much for putting on such a great race. All of you that came out and supported the race, you were amazing. I couldn't think of a better environment to go after my first Ironman. I also want to say to the Ironman staff and the race director, thank you for running such a great race. That race has been there for 25 years because of how professionally and how well it's run. I have to give a huge shout out to all the volunteers that I interacted with. I didn't have a single negative experience. Everyone was just extremely friendly, very knowledgeable, and thank you so much. I also want to say thank you to all the athletes and the fellow competitors that I shared the course with. I met so many great people. And then last, I would like to say a special thank you and a huge shout out to those of you that have been following this video series that also did Ironman Florida. And a lot of you were that was your first Ironman. And I got to say, I was so impressed with how well you raced. And getting to meet those of you that I did and hearing from you out on the course, that was a huge lift. So thanks and keep up the great work. I hope to be able to, hit a start line with you in the not too far off future. So I guess that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone.
Back for it.
So they have video now. They can play it back.
So seriously, there is a pro triathlete that I follow, and we supported. Well, we went out and watched him race when we were out in Arizona and met his mom and dad, and they're just the sweetest people, and he's just the coolest guy. But this Joe Skipper guy, he is just a blue-collar, hard-working kid that worked his way up. He's like top 10 in the world. And he's a fun guy. And so what he does at the races that he goes to is the day after, he holds a beer mile for anybody that wants to show up. And they film it and time it, and he puts it on his YouTube channel and all
Wow.
that. And so, seriously, I was planning on doing the beer mile tomorrow. I mean, it was probably going to be really bad.